Welcome to the 3026 Breakdowns MMA Stock Report UFC on Fox 22 edition. I'm Jon Lee, and in this feature, we're going to look at four of the fighters who performed on UFC on Fox 22 and determine if their stock is up or if their stock is down. Let's get started. Starting with Colby Covington. Stock up. Colby Covington had a great performance last night. His stand-up looked markedly improved. It's obvious he's training with Jorge Masvidal down at American Top Team. His grind was still as strong as ever, and he really blew through Bryan Barberena. He didn't finish him, didn't even really ever come close to finishing him, but he was able to put his striking and his wrestling together in a way that he hasn't before. He looked fluid on the feet. He did get tagged a couple times, but other than that, on the feet, he was winning. In the clinch, he was winning. And on the ground, he was winning. And Bryan Barberena is a tough customer, man. He's known as this prospect killer, but he's got a solid chin. He's a good striker, decent wrestler, good heart, game opponent. So being able to dominate Bryan Barberena like that is a really good sign for Colby Covington. I'm buying stock in Colby Covington. He was my one bet of the night at UFC on Fox 22. And he won very convincingly. So I think big things are in store for him, and I'd like to see him fight maybe Kamaru Usman or some other top fringe, top 15 or 20 welterweight. Really, really impressive performance from Colby, and I'm expecting big things out of him. I would not be shocked if he becomes a contender for the 170-pound strap in the next 18 months to 2 years. Stock down, Sage Northcutt. I was never really super high on Sage Northcutt. I kind of think I've been pretty realistic on him throughout his whole career. I did think he would beat Mickey Gall because he had 9 professional fights, and Mickey Gall essentially was making his pro debut against Northcutt. But I think there's a couple of things that are keeping Sage back. Number one, having his dad run his career. That's just historically not a good way to run your training camp or to do your MMA training. Jordan Mean had issues with this. Stephen Thompson has kind of hit the ceiling of where he maybe could do, and he had to branch out and go hang out with the Mark Henry guys. It just doesn't really work unless your dad is named Greg Jackson. So I'm not really as down on Sage as I think some people are, but I do think we've realized that he's not really a UFC caliber fighter at this point in his career. He's only 20 years old. He definitely will be a UFC caliber fighter at some point in his career if he makes the right adjustments. So what I'd really like to see is for Sage to kind of go away from Daddy for a little bit and maybe go up to TriStar or down to ATT or out to Jackson's and do a full 12-week Korean training camp for his next fight, or take Michael Chiesa or the Diaz brothers up on training on the ground, because Sage is a really good athlete. He's got some pretty decent striking. He's a tough dude. I mean, he's quit in that Barberena fight, and he probably could have kept fighting a little bit last night, but he is tough. I don't think he quits right away. And I do think that he has a lot of potential, but he's got to get away from Dad, and he's really got to drill the ground stuff. Like, he needs to take maybe 6 to 8 months off. Don't come back till the middle of 2017, and train your wrestling, train your jiu-jitsu so that you're not such a liability, because I think we're probably going to see that Mickey Gall is not that great when he goes down to 155, if he can make 155 consistently. So I think that this is a pretty bad loss. And it's worse than the Barberena loss for sure. I don't think Gall's as good as Barberena. So I think that this is a really clear time where Sage Northcutt needs to try something else, because whatever he's doing isn't working enough for him to survive and advance in the UFC. Stock up, Michelle Waterson. I couldn't bring myself to bet on her. I did come to believe after watching more and more tape on Paige Vanzant that Michelle Waterson was going to win this fight. I did not think she would do it so quickly or so emphatically, but I did believe that she was the more skilled fighter, and unless she showed up completely shot or completely old and really ring rusty, she was going to have her way with Paige, and that's exactly what happened. I think she's an exciting addition to the 115-pound division. I don't think she's an immediate title challenger for Joanna. I think people have talked about her fighting Jessica Andrade. I even think that's a pretty big step up. Jessica Andrade's looked like a killer at 115, but I wouldn't mind seeing her fight someone like Angela Hill or maybe Carla Esparza when she comes back. Come on that lever. Let her work her way up, you know? We'll talk about Paige in a minute, but Paige is a name win, but maybe not the most quality win. Either way, it's cool to have Michelle Waterson back. Hopefully, she'll get back in the cage soon because that was very impressive. And she's a really skilled fighter. When I was watching her atomweight fights, you know, she's really, really technical, really good on the ground, really good wrestler, really good in the clinch, as we saw with that throw. Beautiful chains, combos. Really fun to watch. So look forward to seeing more of her. Hopefully, we see her in the next, 3 to 4 months. And lastly, stock down, Paige Vanzant. So, again, much like Sage, I've never been super high on Paige. I did go into this fight thinking she would win based on it being in her hometown, her being a little bit bigger, which the size advantage was not as big as I thought it was. At the weigh-ins, I was really pretty sure Michelle was going to win because I didn't think the size advantage was a real thing. Her pace was a little faster, but her pace is really untechnical, so she ends up getting countered, and she's inaccurate, and she's younger. But, Paige is just not going to beat anyone who really has a solid skill set. She's not. She can beat the Beck Rawlings of the world. She can beat the Angela Manganas. But the girls who actually know what they're doing in the top 7 or 8 of that division, they're all going to beat her pretty one-sidedly, as Rose and Michelle Waterson have proven. So I don't know what's going on with Paige. I don't know if she trains full-time. She's got a lot of other opportunities. She talked about doing other things and not wanting to be a full-time fighter and this, that, or the other. So I don't know if she really wants to do this that badly. She definitely is going to have opportunities to make money outside of this and other easier ways to do things. So who knows what's going to happen with her. She's a tough girl. She passed out rather than tap. But besides having heart and wanting to do this, she doesn't have much of a skill set, and she's gotten away from the one thing she kind of did good, which was the roughing people up in the clinch and putting like a furious pace on them and wearing them down. And now she wants to strike, and she's just not a very good striker, and she doesn't throw very much volume, and it's just all bad. So I don't know. Maybe she wants to keep doing this. I mean, I can't imagine she's going to stop fighting at 22, but she should maybe consider if she wants to do this or not, because I think she's gonna keep running into this level of competition and getting beaten pretty badly unless she changes something. She can beat the Caitlin Currans of the world, the Beck Rollins, stuff like that, Alex Chambers, but she's not going to beat any of those other top girls. I think Angela Hill would beat her once Angela Hill recovers from me cursing her as the biased god because she blocked me on Twitter for no reason. But, I just don't think she's going to beat any of those top girls. Ronda Marcos, I think, beats her too. Any of those girls who have any sort of one-dimensional skill set even, if you can do one thing well, I think you can beat Paige Vanzant. So I don't know if she wants to do this. I don't know if she's going to take the training more seriously. She was making comments about how she just needs to work on her jiu-jitsu, and it's clear that maybe she doesn't get it, or maybe she won't ever get it, or she thinks differently. Who knows? She's super religious, so, who knows where her head's at or what she's using to justify her losses or wins. But I would not bet on Paige Vanzant against anyone but kind of the bottom of the barrel 115ers because she just really isn't good anywhere. And I'm not hating on her. I think she's probably a nice person, but she's not a great fighter. That's going to wrap it up for the MMA Stock Report UFC on Fox 22 edition. We have no events for the next 2 weeks. I know, I'm super depressed about it, but I actually will be going to UFC 207. Ronda versus Nunez. I have really terrible tickets. I'll Periscope from there so you can see how bad my tickets are. I'll probably also get into a fight because I don't like Ronda, and this is going to be like a Ronda love fest. But hopefully she'll lose, and I can bask in her tears. Just because we don't have an event doesn't mean I won't be making videos. So I'll be back this week with a video on how Dominic Cruz verbally TKO'd Cody Garbrandt and how he and Conor McGregor use mental warfare to make their opponents fight week hell. As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, give the video a like, leave a comment, and follow me on Twitter at John's Crazy Life. Thanks.